Good afternoon, everyone. This is Warren Wheaton, your District 7 legislator. We are going to begin our webinar set for the 20th of January during our lunch hour. And our special guest today is Joseph Granado he's the coordinator from the Kiowa Indian Council. And just this webinar, just some rules. Only the panelists will be sharing their screen. Those that are joining in or hopping on online. If you look down at the bottom of the Zoom link or at the bottom of your screen, you should see a Q&A box with a question mark in the chat box. So you can send us your questions. If you have a question for myself or the KIC coordinator, who's our special guest today, put those questions down there and we'll get them asked. If you want to put it in the chat, you can do that as well too. We're monitoring both. But for this webinar today, we are recording this, and this will all go on our YouTube channel for District 7. So welcome, Joseph Granado, KIC coordinator. How are you doing today?
Oh, good to see you. Down
You
day and
too.
ball.
Oh, Honda Onde and San. I'd like to just start off with a short introduction, if you would, of who you are, your position, and when you were elected, and the people that you come from.
Oh, Joseph Granado akong. Carnegie ga akil. Canada ga, Sepuhul ga, Pruitt ga, uh, Tape go neda. Uh, my name is Joseph Granado from Carnegie, Oklahoma. That's where I live. Uh, the families that I come from are Canada, Sepuhul, and Pruitt, and Dogama as well, which I forgot to name. I was elected as the Kiowa Indian Council Coordinator back on April of last year of 2025. Um, and almost coming up on a year, come this next April, to kind of talk about this position, as what was put out in a memo by the executive branch. There was requests for applications for the position of coordinator, based upon the Kiowa Tribe Trial Court ruling, by the judge of last year, back in March, I believe. The ruling determined that a coordinator shall be elected at the annual meeting of the KIC. So this position is an annual position. So those of you that are interested, please submit your letters of interest by February 3rd, I believe. Again, all the information can be found on the Kiowa Tribe Indian Council webpage. Um,
All right, thank you, Joseph. So this is the second election in regards to these five resolutions. This is a special election, so everybody needs to send in their ballot by January 31st. And so with the special election, we are asking the voters, shall the Constitution be amended as proposed in these resolutions? So let's just cover the resolutions first. Uh, let's talk about number three, which is resolution. Every resolution says KIC CY 2025, but the third one, which is enrollment blood quantum by descendancy. What is that? What is that asking? And just to clarify that.
so the author of that resolution, Lucinda Poe, I believe her aim and goal was to get rid of the blood quantum threshold requirement of 1/4 or 1/8, whether that be 1/16 or 1/32. It's just to prove those that would like to be on the Kiowa roll, to prove that they are a descendant of Kiowa tribal members that are enrolled in the Kiowa tribe.
Ultimately,
Uh,
would that basically just do away with any kind of blood quantum requirement?
that was her goal of her resolution. Yes.
And so, we'll go through all the resolutions and we'll start to ask some questions after this. So, the next one is resolution 6, which is reduce enrollment requirement to 1/8 of Kiowa Indian or captive blood. So, my understanding, and I'll help you you can just clarify or jump in, but my understanding is this simply would lower the 1/4 requirement, making it an eighth of those who were descendant of the original allottees on the original Kiowa. So if you have 1/8 blood quantum, you are eligible for enrollment. Is that correct?
Oh, yes, that is correct.
Okay.
It just go from 1/4 to 1/8.
Okay. And so let's cover the uh, the blood quantum ones first. Then there's resolution number 9, 2025, which would proposes to amend the Constitution, making all current enrollees 4/4 degree Kiowa blood. What does that mean?
So essentially, I believe Kala Tautati and Tea Rosario,
Oh,
currently legislatures have proposed that resolution, and the goal was to turn all currently enrolled Kiowa members, whether you're a fourth or 3/4 or half, to make everyone across the board full bloods.
mhm.
And then in turn, if they had children or grandchildren, um, who would, be half or a fourth, um, they would be eligible for enrollment. That because there's still that 1/4 threshold requirement to be on the roll.
Okay. Now we have two other resolutions we'll get to. I'd like, since we wanted to talk about the blood quantum ones first. So if people choose, I guess this is just an opinion, and any one of us, Devin included, should our Kiowa citizens choose one they feel most comfortable with? And so, say if I said, well, this one fits, this is the one I agree with. I'm going to vote for this one. Should they vote no on the other two?
So if let's just hypothetically say you wanted to choose 1/8, okay, in this
Hmm.
scenario, you choose 1/8, but you do not have to fill in the blank for no on the other two.
Okay.
It simply won't count
Vote.
that vote for those two
Okay.
other resolutions because there was no decision made. It would
Okay.
just count the one that you made on the 1/8 in this scenario. It wouldn't
So,
spoil your ballot
okay.
also.
So if citizens choose one, the one with the highest amount of votes, would that be the one that goes on an amendment to the Constitution?
So, if my understanding is correct, are you getting at like a whatever has, if one got, 1,501 votes and the
Hmm.
other got 1,500 votes, are you saying if that 1,501 would be the one that would be?
Yes, that's my question to you.
Okay, so no.
Okay.
If they both, because they were both duly presented at a meeting of the council, they went through its proper process to be given to the election commission. Election commission does its part. And let's just hypothetically say that 30% threshold is met. And let's say 60% vote for in favor for the 1/8 and 51% vote in favor for the 4/4. Um, and they pass because they met that majority vote.
Hmm.
However, given that both were duly or met that requirement, that 30% threshold, and they both we're both in favor, they both pass. It doesn't mean that one takes precedent over, well, the issue is that which one takes precedent over the other because they both passed, they met that requirement, but then which one rules over the other? Um, because if it was to be boiled down to numbers, yeah, 4/4 is greater than 1/8, so it should be maybe 4/4 or 4/4 as opposed to 1/8.
Hmm.
Um, but the thing is that then we run into a wall because which one, again, takes precedent over the other. However, think of it like this. If, let's say, one resolution just pertaining to a blood quantum was presented, let's just say it's 1/8. It goes through its constitutional process. It meets that 30% threshold, and majority find it in favor, and it passes. That 1/8 passes. Constitution is amended and everything, and that 1/8 requirement, is up on the board. Those that are 1/8 can enroll. Now let's say 2 years pass. 2 years later, something passes. and it's presented for a four-fourths um, resolution. It goes through its constitutional process to be duly presented, put on a ballot, meets that 30% threshold requirement, and let's say majority find it in favor and it passes. Well, that one that was presented 2 years past, the 1/8, would be null and void because this four-fourths was newly presented and it passed. So with the issue that we have currently now, the only thing is that these two resolutions, or well, three technically, um, are all being presented at the same time. It's not a runoff type of thing of which one gets the most votes, because that's not how it works in process of it all. Uh,
So if all three were to pass, or if say we meet that threshold of 30%, which one do we go with?
Again, I don't know. That would probably have to be,
A
up to our
KIC
courts,
discussion.
another discussion up to the courts,
So
in that, because
could that
again,
be
it'd be
could we do
conflicting.
a runoff at the next meeting or propose a runoff?
I don't know if that's a runoff per se would be something that we could do. Because again, what we're doing currently now is I think that's what the mindset is
Of a lot of
with
people.
of a lot of people right now with the current election is that, oh, well, let's just see which one gets the most votes and
Yeah.
everything. Well, if two were to get that 30% threshold requirement and both were to get majority yes, they both pass. And again, we're at a conflict.
So we'd need to go back to the KIC and say, let's decide this once and for all,
Yes, because
potentially. Okay.
yeah, so as
Okay.
that's what should have been done, what was hoped to be done at the time of the special meeting back on
Yeah.
June 21st.
Yeah.
However, given the history with KIC and the politics of the tribe, people,
Sure.
had built up, frustration. So it's understandable that let's just see what sticks type of
Okay.
situation.
Joseph, I have a question.
Yeah, of course.
So, with everything that you just said, let's say that four-fourths passes and an eighth requirement passes as well. Isn't there a world that exists where both of those amendments can occur and function? So
But
it would basically the alteration would be everybody's four-fourths. Simultaneously, the requirement for enrollment becomes an eighth. And so those two things can still live. Does that make sense?
yeah, I
Or
think I think that makes sense. So essentially what you're saying is that all currently enrolled members would be four-fourths and everything, and that's it. Um, but that threshold is still one-fourth. However, with this 1/8 resolution, it's looking to lower the requirement to be on the roll.
Mhm,
I think it could be they could work together in that
mhm.
regard. Um, Again, it's just turning everyone to four-fourths and then just lowering that requirement to 1/8. So
Because that in general
yeah.
would allow for the next, I think, four generations to become Kiowa if there was if Kiowas weren't getting married, you know, hypothetically speaking,
Oh, yeah,
then
yeah,
that would still allow enrollment for the next four generations at least.
yes. So like currently like my I have relatives who have children who are 1/8. But they
Mhm,
themselves are a quarter. So if this resolution for fourths were to pass, um, my relative would be full blood by paper,
mhm,
and then by extension, their children would then be a half, because
mhm,
let's say their spouse is not of Kiowa blood.
mhm,
Um, and then, they meet that requirement, and then it goes down the line. If their children had children, or if if their children had children, then those grandchildren would be a fourth, and then those great grandchildren would then be an eighth, and those great grandchildren would be eligible to be on the roll because they're one
mhm,
eighth. So,
mhm.
yes, to answer your question, I think they would work if they were to pass.
Mhm.
if the language is there to allow that.
Mhm. You're muted. Segi, you're muted.
My apologies. So I think it's important to just make sure our viewers know, our citizens know that this is all null and void if we don't meet that 30% voters cast a vote in a special election, which means that there are currently 9,422 eligible voters. We need at least 2,800 people, 2,826 voters to vote in this election to move this forward. To my knowledge, the only time I think we've ever had that would be in the special election to adopt this new constitution. So we will have to see it, but it's important that everybody send in their ballot. If you have a ballot, you need to vote in order to move forward with the blood quantum. Uh, so this is the current number that we need to have vote in a special election. Anything you want to add on to that, Joseph? Did I say that correctly?
Oh, yes, you said it correctly.
So let's talk about the other two resolutions real quick. So people will have the other two proposed resolutions are to remove that 30% voter requirement to amend the Constitution because it's high, right? Now there was not a replacement percentage, right? This is just removing that. Would it then go to a majority vote if it was to change? I guess
Uh,
that's a question I have to you, Joseph.
oh, um, yes, that resolution was seeking again to get rid of the 30% threshold and just those majority that vote or cast a vote in a special election are the ones that count.
Okay.
So let's just hypothetically say, 100 people cast a vote in a special election, majority are in favor of this constitutional amendment change, then, it passes. Then there's that constitutional amendment change.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, there is a concern with getting rid of that threshold requirement. While 30%, yes, oftentimes has not worked. Well, it has not worked at all in the favor of the Kiowa tribe. For those that are looking to have a constitutional amendment change and there not being enough voter turnout, it still would be wise to have a percentage threshold. Doesn't have to be 30%. It could be half of that.
Yeah.
But at least there's that threshold requirement because if let's just say someone wants to present a resolution, let's just hypothetically say that that 30% threshold requirement, passes, it gets rid of it's just majority now. Let's just say someone wants to do constitutional amendment changes and decides to, change the powers of the executive branch or uh, the KIC or, the legislature, um, and it's presented and it's passed, then there's all these sorts of changes. Um, Not saying that's the intention of the current author that presented this resolution is for someone to go rogue later on down the line or abuse it, but we also have to be wise in what it is that we're presenting because it could impact those later on down in life who were not
Yeah.
intending to cause harm or have, an issue later
And
on.
I think that we've seen this before with the KIC under the old Constitution. Um, you would have an annual KIC meeting where you didn't have a threshold on an election, right? Basically, it was 20 or 30 people at these KIC meetings, and they would say, "Well, I'll use this as an example. I think we should recall Warren Wheaton. I'll use my name as an example, right? We should recall Warren Wheaton because he took, I don't know, $10,000 from food distribution. He embezzled money. And then that's my resolution. They would write it on a piece of paper and they'd say, this, we're gonna vote on this. And then they would read it off at that meeting. Shall the Kiowa Indian Council recall Warren Wheaton for taking $10,000 from food distribution? And of course, if somebody stands up and says that at the meeting, then everybody's like, yeah, let's recall him. then there's no due process. Like I'm just using myself as an example. I don't have the opportunity to defend myself or present evidence to clear my name. Therefore, what happened was the KIC would vote on it at that meeting, and you'd get a ballot just like this that says, we shall recall Warren Wheaton for taking $10,000 from food distribution. And so people read that who are out of state, they don't know that there has not been an investigation. They read that and they think, yeah, he needs to be recalled because this says that he took money. So in their mind, when they read that, you're stating a fact, when in fact, there's been no due process, no investigation. That's all hearsay until it's proven fact. So that was and that could happen again if we took away the threshold and say, you get these meetings or these elections, people could kind of change policy with just a minimal amount of people that are participating in our government. So I just using it as an example. Let's cover the next one, Joseph. The vacancy clause for the KIC coordinator is number 8. So what does this KIC starter amendment mean?
So essentially, that resolution, I forgot the gentleman's name at the top of my head. He was looking to have a clause, a text, and as far as a step-by-step process in which to re-elect or have a coordinator come in the event that any coordinator that is occupying the position, there's a step to replace them, whether that coordinator becomes incapacitated, hospitalized, sick, or fails to do the job, or at worst, dies or passes away. There's at least a process that the KIC can do to fill that vacancy in the event that those things happen as well. That's the purpose of that resolution, especially with history's past, with the recent former coordinator, Mr. Hopkins, who did not do his constitutional obligation to obtain and publicly publish resolutions for the 2025 annual meeting at that time. So that's what I believe that's what is in regards to an former that might have um, got rid of or not got rid of, but withdrew from their post. So that's what
Okay.
the purpose of that resolution is.
Okay. Thank you, Joseph. I appreciate that. Um, I'm going to hand it over to our legislative intern, Devin Wixon, for his questions. Unfortunately, I have to leave for another meeting at 12:30. So thank you all for listening to my questions about the resolutions. I'm going to hand this over to Devin, and they're going to continue on. Joseph, thank you for your answers.
Oh,
Aho,
oh,
deonde, hego ai mai bonta.
oh, hagamo e bonto.
All right, Joseph. So, um, I have a couple of questions. I think the first one is regarding blood quantum and the concerns for changing that blood quantum or lowering it. Um, so, I think the issue that many of us share is with being Kiowa, we are very prideful in that where we come from in our culture and our families. We want to continue to honor those that that made those sacrifices for us to be here, but we're unable to because of these blood quantum laws with the um, the lower amount only being a quarter.
Mhm.
And so the concerns that I have heard involve government finances. Many of our government officials are saying that if we lower the blood quantum, the tribe could potentially go bankrupt, while others seem to think that if you have a higher number of enrollees, then you receive more federal funding. Can you just tap into that a little bit and kind of debunk some of those ideas or um, confirm some of those ideas?
Yeah, I'll do my best.
Okay.
Um, As far as numbers, having more of an influx of numbers, enrolled members that could potentially bankrupt the tribe, that isn't necessarily gonna happen. Um, what I've heard is that let's just say per cap, because that's been the main thing is per cap, kind of with lowering some of this blood quantum, providing a per cap. Um, it would be required um, if per cap was given, which is the legislature's power to do so, that revenue money from the tribe that the tribe gets would have to go towards per cap. And right now, from what last I had heard in discussion with others that have more of a understanding of the financial aspect of it, is if money was to be distributed to all members of the tribe, um, current revenue that comes in from the casino uh, would be exhausted. Um, and there wouldn't be really any enough to replenish or provide for other branches of government or departments within the tribe if those departments um, also utilize tribal funds instead of federal funds. Um, so essentially, no, the tribe won't necessarily go bankrupt, but again, it's just dependent on how those funds are used internally from revenue um, and everything. Now, with federal funds, Congress, believe every 5 years, or is it 10 years when this for the census? Because the Congress goes based off of census data that's provided. Um, so whatever census data that the tribe has and has given to or utilizes uh, for funding, um, we would essentially get more federal funding because we are now have more enrolled members to fill that financial gap to help supplement those extra individuals. That doesn't necessarily mean that that funding is going to double or triple for those that were already getting financial assistance. It's just that extra money most of the time may go towards to help with more people, but for the same amount as it was previously in years past. Um, however, going back to the revenue of the tribe, if the tribe is financially successful on its business ventures, getting in revenue not just from gaming and leasing, but also other business avenues, that money from that could be allocated to departments to help, bridge that financial gap for, those that may not qualify or, funds are exhausted because, federal funding ran out because federal funding, they'll only give you a certain amount. And then once that's exhausted, that's it. You can't help or service any more people. But going back to the tribe's revenue, whatever they get, they could help supplement, that gap for those departments. Um, so yeah, hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that's very helpful actually. So we don't have per cap right now, correct? Is there a resolution for per cap currently on this ballot?
No, there isn't. There was a RAP report, revenue allocation plan that Modena Waters had presented. Um, that wasn't seeking a constitutional amendment change. So that isn't required to be on this ballot come the end of January.
Hmm.
Um, again, as far as what the Constitution goes, I don't think that the Kiowa Indian Council has the authority to create resolutions or laws pertaining to budget and spending.
Hmm.
Um, again, full disclaimer, I'm not a lawyer. I have no academic background in being a lawyer. The only
Hmm.
academic background I have is with environmental policy.
Hmm.
But it
Okay.
kind of helps, with understanding a little bit of some legal jargon. But again, I'm not well in depth. as a lawyer would be. Um, but I believe uh, trying to look at the Constitution right now because I believe in one of the articles, Article 11, under, let's see, initiative, Section 3, yeah, Article 11, Section 3. The voters reserve the right to enact legislation by popular vote, provided that initiatives on spending and budgets shall be prohibited. So again, I'm not a lawyer. This is just my personal interpretation. Shouldn't be misconstrued as legal counsel, or legal interpretation.
Mhm.
Because again, that's the trial court of the Kiowa tribe to determine interpretations or understanding of the Constitution, the Kiowa Constitution. Um, but to go back to your question, I don't believe that the KIC could or has the power to do that unless it's specifically delegated within Article 5 um, for powers given to the KIC. But in short, no. There is
Okay.
no current resolution for per cap, and I don't think that would be constitutionally allowable, um, given other parts of the Constitution that would
Okay.
forbid that or prohibit that.
So to your knowledge, currently, um, there should not be a a voter restraint on lowering blood quantum based on bankruptcy for the tribe.
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question?
Yes. So based on what we just talked about with in regards to per cap and potential bankruptcy of the tribe with lowering blood quantum, voters should know that that is not necessarily a threat in this moment.
Correct. That's not a threat.
Okay, perfect. Um, so for those that don't know, what are some of the responsibilities as the KIC coordinator and who is the KIC serving?
So the responsibilities of the coordinator, as I've learned within the time that I've been in here, is it's kind of as my former running opponent had mentioned at the time, it is kind of a secretarial position for the KIC. So like, let's say you have a resolution that you'd like to present, um, I would you'd submit it to the KIC coordinator. Then the KIC coordinator would then have to publish them within 30 days of the uh, either annual meeting or the special meeting of the council. And a special meeting can be called upon either by a petition of 400 signatures, whether that was taken upon by you or some other Kiowa tribal citizen, or the legislature. Um, So after resolutions are presented or submitted to the coordinator then publishes those. Then the coordinator calls for a meeting. In this case, a special meeting, but the annual meeting is set in stone through the Constitution. It's the first Saturday in April, every year. Which this next one will be April 4th, Saturday, April 4th, 2026. Um, So then those resolutions will be duly presented after they've been submitted within 45 days. They're published within 30 days. Uh, they'll go through their process at the meeting of being voted on. If they are passed, uh, the chairperson elect that's facilitating the meeting and the secretary elect that is taking notes at the meeting will sign those documents and then give them to the coordinator. The coordinator then has 10 days uh, from passage, which in this case from April 4th, 2026, would have 10 days to submit them to the election commission within those 10 days. Um, and then once it's given to the election commission then takes the baton, so to speak, and does their process of uh, compiling all those together, setting a date and time for an election. Um, so yeah, um, but also to um, There hasn't really been a steady, consistent coordinator, unfortunately, in years past. So trying to be able to better, well, let's see, document and organize any papers or resolutions, things like that, that are given to the coordinator for this office, so that the next coordinator that comes in can have something to go off of. Because it's important that the KIC is organized because it itself is also a branch of government within the Kiowa tribe, just as the executive branches and the legislative branches. There's a balance of power amongst all three. Um, so yeah, I'm hoping, hopefully, we're able to do more within this position to provide more information, um, a little bit more outreach stuff in the coming future. But again, it is an annual position, so it's kind of tricky because you never know what's going to happen the following year if the coordinator is going to be either reelected or someone else is going to come in, and if someone else comes in, that's their responsibility now. So.
So we now know from what you've told us that it is an annual election. Is there term limits for the coordinator, or could you run every single year and regain that responsibility?
Yeah, absolutely. So there was a memo put out by the executive branch to submit letters of interest, I believe, by February 3rd. So anyone that's seeing this before that date, I encourage you to submit your letter of interest, and also with the requirements of the application to the chairman of the tribe. Um, Now, there was a policy and procedure in years past that was presented in which it required that the coordinator have a 2-year position. Um, but given the current ruling by the trial court of the Kiowa tribe, that ruling was made to be an annual election for the position of coordinator. So, in short, it is an annual position and not a biannual position as the current policies and procedures or requirements of the coordinator's position entails. So yes, anyone that is current or future that would hold this position can run again.
Okay. So is there a quorum that you have to meet for those annual elections?
Yes, constitutionally, it requires that 150 members meet quorum so that business can be conducted.
Okay. And if you don't meet that quorum, are you just, does the previous coordinator take over again? Not, I mean, 150 obviously is not that many compared to 10,000 tribal members. But hypothetically, um, would that procedure just, if you don't meet the quorum, you take over again? Like there's no election?
Yeah, also too, any resolutions that we're looking to be duly presented at an annual meeting of the KIC or a special meeting of the KIC um, couldn't be discussed either.
Mm.
So it wouldn't just be the election of the coordinator at that time, but it'd also be those resolutions. So essentially, the coordinator would have to plan another um, meeting, but in this case, a special meeting um, to either discuss those resolutions in which a quorum was not met and or uh, potential candidates for the position of coordinator.
Mhm. Okay, so something I've thought about in the past for KIC meetings is, Kiowas are all over, especially our District 7 people were everything outside of the other 6 districts. Um, is is there any potential for having multiple locations for um, those meetings and potentially having like a representative of the KIC at those locations to hold those meetings? So just an analogy, Life Church, for instance, is all over Oklahoma, Arkansas, all over these places, but it's the same church. And so, if you attend one Life Church, you attend all of them. Is there any any way that we would be able to do that for the KIC in the future? Would that need to be amended, or is that something that could just be created?
So if it's specifically to have an annual meeting or a special meeting of the council, it is, I believe, constitutionally required now to be at the headquarters of the Kiowa tribe, which is currently in Carnegie, Oklahoma. So yes, if those meetings specifically pertain to having resolutions to be presented and discussed and potentially voted on, they would have to be held at one location, is Carnegie, Oklahoma at this current time. Um, there could be a constitutional amendment change to potentially have um, a different locations. Um, for an annual meeting or special meeting of the council. Um, but then there's that whole process of, okay, like, is there a system or a structure in place for those representatives, um, you know, to hold these positions, um, and, have these meetings. Now, that isn't to say that a informational or community meeting of the sort, similar to what the seven districts do, um, you know, that could happen um, for now, given that a constitutional amendment change would have to be done, and it's a very lengthy and daunting task. But in the meantime, meetings like that, just simple informational meetings, could be done. Um, I know right now, and in the past, I've was able to be present at some district meetings that the legislatures had, that they were um, that they had invited me to attend, or I just showed up. Um, so again, those are the two things that different wise dependent upon your meeting, could be done.
Well, I think that I have I've gotten all my questions out of the way. Now, we have a couple attendees, Chuck and Kathy. Do either of y'all have any questions? You can submit those in the chat real quick. We can wait about 5 minutes while they think of a question. Joseph.
Um,
So for to me, it seems like within our government, continuity is a very important thing. And I think that, I want to brag on you a little bit. I think that you have came in and got to work immediately as a KIC coordinator. Um, we know that you are very passionate about, where you come from and who you are. Do you see yourself running for election again? Are you going to be on the ballot? Can we vote for you?
Yes, I will be running again. In the event that I don't know if someone was gonna, and run again. So I just wanted to have, just in case, no one did run, at least there's still a coordinator occupying that position.
Mhm.
So yes, I am running again. I would encourage anyone to be present to vote, whether that's for me or for someone else. Do be present to vote. That same goes and is applicable to any future election, whether that is for these resolutions or for the legislature or the executive branch that may be running again.
Mhm.
So it's just turn out and vote. Come out and vote.
Oh, vote, make a change.
Oh, yeah.
Or don't. Or if you like it, you can vote to no change. Well, all right, Joseph. Thank you for your time. Thank you for
I have one thing.
yeah, go ahead, Tara.
Did you talk about the website already?
Oh, I did not. Um, so any information that comes out of this office um, will be posted to the Kiowa Tribe web page under the Kiowa Indian Council web page. There will also sometimes be a notice posted to the Kiowa Tribe's Facebook page. However, that's more executive oversight that kind of manages that, but they're still willing to allow me to work with them to, make postings known, given that that is the main form of communication. But anything else that's, comes out or is discussed in Facebook pages or forums, um, doesn't normally come out of this office unless it is directly addressed to individuals so that they're more well informed. But then again, they're encouraged to give a call to the KIC coordinator, and that all that contact information is on the Kiowa Tribe website under the Kiowa Indian Council webpage. Um, so yeah, and
Sweet.
also I'm in the event that someone comes and sees this before April 4th, or before February 18th, Wednesday, February 18th, if you have a resolution that you'd like to have duly presented at the annual meeting of the Kiowa Indian Council, which again is Saturday, April 4th, 2026, doors will open at 8. It'll be at the Red Wolf Community Center. Transportation will be provided. Specifics will come at a later time. And again, all that information will be posted to the Kiowa Tribe website. Or feel free to give a call, to the coordinator as well. So if you have a resolution that you'd like, again, to have duly presented, you need to submit those by 5 p.m., before 5 p.m. On Wednesday, February 18th, 2026. That is 45 days before the annual meeting of the council, which is constitutionally required that any resolution be submitted 45 days before. However, if you have a resolution that you'd like to have duly presented, but you're not ready for it to be presented, hold on to it. I'm hoping later on could be able to have another special meeting to have other resolutions that may not have been ready to be talked about or discussed. So again, just don't feel free that you have to wait a whole another year. You can always reach out to this office, and we'll just go from there on to further discussions to potentially have your resolution discussed at a potential special meeting. But yeah, that's all I have at the moment.
Thank you, Joseph. All right. Well, I think that's going to conclude our meeting. Thank you for being here and answering all of our questions. I know that you've probably been talking your head off, but we appreciate it, and our citizens appreciate this. This is how we get the word out for people, and we're going to continue to try to do that for everyone, and hopefully,
Oh,
a lot of people learn something today, and they're able to spread that message on, as all of us do with our relatives.
oh,
Hit the group chats and tell them.
I enjoyed the discussion, the talk. So,
Absolutely.
and also too, for the listeners here, if you know of anyone that doesn't have access to Facebook, reach out to them, let them know, inform them, because even we all can't reach everyone and everything. So kind of help us out to reach those that may not be aware or know. Spread the word.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you to all the viewers, and we'll see you next time.
I hope